Oh gosh. When I was outside today, I heard a dog barking, and that reminded me of a story. Now this story has two warnings with it. The first one is that my beard might fall off. Yeah. But the second one is that it's a very, very sad story. Okay? Are you ready for a sad story? How sad? Very sad. In the 1200s, which is 800 years ago, Prince Llewellyn of Wales lived in a big stone house in North Wales. He lived with his wife and his servants, and they just had a new baby. Well, the prince had a favourite dog, a hound called Gelert. He was a big, strong hound, and he used to go with the prince hunting. When the prince went out to hunt for wild boar or stags, Gelert was always there by his side. Yes, the prince used to take a bow and arrow and a sword and a spear, that's right. Yeah, he used to go with his friends. They all took their hounds as well. And when the prince was sitting having his dinner, Gelert would be there at the table, and the prince used to give him something to eat when his wife wasn't looking. And when the prince was walking around thinking around the house, Gelert would be there at his side. Anyway, Gelert loved the new baby. He thought the baby was wonderful, and he used to sit by the cradle watching the baby sleeping. And if the baby woke up and started gurgling and playing, Gelert used to wag his tail and look all happy. Anyway, one day, Prince Llewellyn's wife was busy around the house in another part of the house, and Prince Llewellyn was looking after the baby. Suddenly, outside, he heard, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It was his friends. They wanted him to go hunting. Yeah, they were going after wild boar. They said, come with us, come on, into the woods, because in those days, Wales was covered in huge forests, and they were full of wild boar and deer. Prince Llewellyn loved hunting. So off he went. He went out and he got his horse and he got his things with him, his bow and arrow and everything and his spear. And off he went with his friends and all the hounds. Off into the woods. Because it was a lovely day, the doors were left open so that warm air could come into the stone house. Because even on a hot day, a stone house can be very chilly. The baby was sleeping in the cradle. But Gelert stayed with the baby. He didn't go with his master hunting. He usually did, but not today. Anyway, when the master was away, suddenly a big hungry wolf sneaked in through the door of the house and went sniffing and nosing round all the rooms. And eventually he got to the room where the baby was, and he smelt the baby in the cradle, and he went to get the baby because he was hungry and he wanted to eat the baby. Well, Gelert was there in the corner, and when he saw the wolf jumping up to the cradle, Gelert leapt at him and bit him in the back, really fiercely. But the wolf was bigger than Gelert, and he turned round and he bit Gelert in the foreleg really badly. And the two of them tumbled and fought on the ground. Yeah, there was a heck of a mess. There was blood everywhere and hair. It was terrible. It was a big, big fight. Gelert was almost exhausted by fighting the wolf, because the wolf was bigger than him, but Gelert was very fast. Anyway, the wolf jumped up to get one last grab at the baby, and he knocked the cradle over, and it went upside down, and the baby was trapped underneath. And just at that moment, Gelert leapt forward and got the wolf by the throat, and he bit as hard as he could, and he ground his teeth, and he shook, and he shook, and he shook, and he shook, and the blood was everywhere, until eventually the wolf was dead. That's right. Anyway, Gelert lay down by the cradle because he could hear the baby underneath. The room was in a heck of a mess. Anyway, Prince Llewellyn, out with his friends, suddenly realised, hey, where's my hound? Where's my favourite faithful hound? I'm going to go back and see what's wrong. He rode back and left his friends, and when he got back to the house, he walked in through the door. Gelert, where are you? He said. Gelert came running to him, wagging his tail, friendly as ever. But the prince was shocked. Gelert's mouth was covered in blood, and there was hair and blood everywhere, and the cradle was upturned. What had been going on? He thought, has my favourite faithful hound killed our baby? Well, His shock turned to rage, and he drew his sword, and he ran Gelert through. Yeah, he killed his faithful hound. He killed him. Gelert fell on the floor. The prince dropped his sword, and it clattered on the stone slabs. He was heartbroken. The baby was probably dead, and he'd had to kill his favourite hound for killing the baby. He went over to the cradle and he picked it up, and there was the baby. There was nothing wrong with the baby. It was all right. And then he looked across the room to the trail of blood and hair and saw the wolf dead with its throat ripped out. And he realised the terrible mistake he'd made. He'd killed his faithful hound by mistake. It wasn't the hound that had tried to harm the baby. The hound had saved the baby's life. He was so broken-hearted. Yeah, he was very upset that they buried Gelert with great honour. And if you go to the village of Beth Gelert in North Wales now, you can see the stone that is the grave of Gelert, the faithful dog. It is sad, isn't it? But it's a great story. Come on.